Welcome to episode 100 of the Spiritually Wired podcast. I'm going to take a moment to let that set in because even though I tend to look outside and think, well, 100 episodes isn't that much. People have done way more episodes. 100 episodes is still a good amount of podcast episodes to record. And I've got to say, I'm close to 2 years in now with this 100th episode, and it's been quite a commitment, probably more than I ever thought it would be. I remember thinking back to before I launched the podcast, I'm like, one episode a week. I mean, that's nothing. I teach multiple classes a week. I'm used to doing this, which is true. It hasn't been that difficult in terms of I'm used to recording a lot. And at the same time, you are managing schedules between you and your guests. You're also really thinking about what are the conversations that I want to have on the podcast. And it kind of takes over. So I feel very, is the word proud? Yeah, I guess I'm going to let myself be proud to make it to 100 episodes. Apparently, only 5 to 7% of podcasts make it this far. So, and there's a reason, right? Where people get all excited and you think, okay, this is going to be incredible, but it is a long-term it's something that you do long term, so you rarely see kind of those immediate benefits from the beginning. So what the podcast means to me now is just an opportunity to show up and to have these conversations conversations where my intention is always to kind of to go deep, but still infuse some lightness, but to bring conversations that will challenge people, that will help you to open up your mind in some way, whether it's through a new perspective or also allow you to hopefully be seen in either the conversations that I'm having with guests or the vulnerable shares that I've been doing on my end. So I do want to, before we go any further, just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that you are here and to thank you, because I've had some moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, life is full and there's so many different things that are going on. And I'm thinking, okay, now I've got to record a podcast. Or there are times where it's like for next week, I've gotten better at organizing them ahead of time. But I've had my moments of doubt, as we all do when we do bigger things. And then I always have the best messages from listeners, from people reaching out, saying how a conversation changed them, what helped to them. And I just want you to know how much it means to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And if you haven't yet, this is me making this ask. If you haven't yet followed the podcast, it would mean the world to me, to the podcast, because all of the follows, the downloads, the saves, the shares, the ratings, the reviews, every time you take an action around the podcast, it helps. It helps us so much because it helps to spread the word. It tells the algorithm that people are enjoying this podcast, and so it brings it up for more people to listen to. So if you haven't done that, I would be so appreciative, either on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We're also slowly building YouTube as well. So if you can follow on YouTube as well, means so much. So thank you. All right, so let's go into this episode, because I wanted, when I was reflecting on what do I want this 100th episode to look like, and I thought, at first, do I want to bring together, like recap some of the highlights from the episodes that I've done in the past? Because there's been so many really good episodes, honestly. There's times where I finish a recording and I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to share this. I learned so much about it. And then I almost forget about it until it goes live. And once again, I'm kind of blown away. So there's so many highlights, so many amazing conversations, yet at the same time, that didn't feel right. And I'm like, why doesn't it feel right? Because some of the favorite podcasts that I listen to, the truth is when I see the recap episodes, I don't really tend to go there because I don't want a highlight reel. What I'm looking for is depth. And that has always been the intention behind this podcast, is to have the conversations, to share the behind the scenes, not just what everyone sees. So what felt aligned for me was to share how much I've changed, how much has changed in these past almost 2 years, in these past 100 episodes, because ultimately so much has. And it was a little bit challenging to kind of to bring that, to explore that, what it meant. And so I'm going to share a few of them. The first thing that kind of immediately comes to mind for me is that our oldest child, our son, moved to London, England. And the reason why that's been such a big thing, so he moved during, after the launch of this podcast. And the reason why I bring that up is that, being a mom has always been such a big part of my life, such a big part of my identity, of who I am. And he's always been very independent. So, when he went away to university, and after university, started working right away, moved to his own place in Toronto. So he's always been independent. But then when he moved away, and I remember, we moved him, my husband and I went with him there to help him get settled. And throughout that whole period, I still felt like he was my kid, right? He was my kid, but he's, an older kid, and he's starting off his life and doing his thing and going on an adventure. But we were recently there visiting him, and I had this moment of, and I speak about energy all the time, like the energy around motherhood shifted when I was there. I'm going to try to not get emotional. If you have adult kids, feel free, reach out, because I really want to have this conversation. But it was just a moment, and I speak about this often, where we can understand something intellectually. So it's like, I know that he's doing his own thing, that he's moved away and he's independent. I know this in my mind, but there was something about that trip of just really embodying or realizing, like feeling it in my body, that he has his own life, that he's building a life, that his own friends and work, and he's in this beautiful long-term relationship, and they're both there together, and like they're living their life. And it has nothing to do with me. It was just an obvious thing. So you're either going to get this, or maybe you're still like, what is she talking about? It's obvious, but it really sunk in. And I say that, so my relationship with motherhood has been something that's shifted a lot, and learning how to parent in this stage, which I think is a whole other piece that is missing out there, and probably something that I need to bring more to the podcast, because parenting adult kids versus parenting kids, like younger children, it's a whole different ballgame. And it is a stage that I have been fully just loving. I am loving it. Part of it is because I feel like this has been my time to go deep into my purpose and what I want to do. And so it's not that I'm here sharing this feeling sad. I mean, there is a part, yeah, it's just a shift. It just feels different. And it took me a while after coming back from that trip to just really adjust to what it means. And sometimes we don't have to understand it. It's just, all right, okay, something has shifted here. A new chapter has started. So it was very interesting. Another personal thing has been turning 50 and during this 100 episode run. And, 50 has been different for me. It's not, age is just a number. I'm not really focusing on that other than the fact that this particular decade there's been so many changes in my body, in who I am. I didn't feel those changes truthfully, like even turning 20, 30, 40, not that I really remember any of them because my memory, let's just say, is a little different. I don't remember those being like as big. 50, and from my friends who have turned 60 and 70, and my dad turning 80, I know there's like even more shifts as like the decades shift or come our way. But yeah, I'd say for me, it's been just more and I've talked about this on the podcast. If you've not listened to the episode with Jen Pike, by the way, on hormones, highly recommend. I just am, I received so much from that episode and understanding myself, my body at this time. But yeah, it's been like a new learning, a new settling into who I am now. Once again, going from like the intellectual understanding of like, yes, there's like an aging process happening, but really learning to embrace and to be in this new chapter in my body and what that looks like, what that feels like. Everyone is different. But that's been prioritizing my health. Before was like, I want to prioritize my health. I remember, I'm 40 and being 40 and thinking that way. And now it's like, I have to prioritize my health. It's no longer a ideal, I would love to. It's I have to. My body is really asking for it. And so how do I do that? And how do I do it in a loving way? So there's been a lot happening, some quite kind of bigger things happening with my health that has asked me to take some steps back and to look at things differently. But it's getting there. It's getting there. And I am learning to kind of love this new body. I've committed to some personal training. I know not everyone can maybe necessarily do that, but I knew that I needed to have that in place right now to make sure that I was doing some strength training because I didn't seem to be doing it as much on my own, and also kind of forcing me to get out of the house. We have a great gym here, but I just needed to get out of the house and to do different things. And so that's opened up so many shifts. It's been great from that perspective. But yeah, turning 50 has been a huge part of how my life has changed, I'd say. I would also, another piece that, when I look back to when I first launched the podcast, I would talk a lot about my fear around being seen. And that was like a big piece. And I know that it may have seemed as if, oh, what are you talking about? Like you're comfortable and we see you everywhere. But no, like I would have this thing where if I felt that all eyes were on me, my nervous system would get totally activated and I would shut down. Like I would literally, and it's more just in understanding my nervous system that I was able to see, all right, this is a nervous system activation and I am just completely shutting down in this moment. And so that has been something that I've worked through, and I've worked through it by doing more of it, by being willing to be seen in all the moments where it felt uncomfortable. And boy, has there been some visibility in these past 100 episode run, in the sense of, and I can still think of when we did the podcast launch party, which I'm so happy I did. It was such an incredible evening and it was a great way. But I remember even there kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so vulnerable, right? So open to criticism and judgment. And if you have an anxious mind, which the reason why I'm doing all of this work is because my natural tendency is to go to worst case scenarios. I tend to be more of an anxious person. I didn't know that about myself until I started learning more about myself and understanding myself more. So I would, create these scenarios of being canceled and judged and like, oh my goodness, what can happen, to now, right now. What has shifted is that I can feel the all eyes on me. I can still have a nervous system activation. I'm not saying that it's not happening. I can still have it. And yet now there's so much evidence and data for my nervous system to know, okay, this is not a threat to my existence. We're okay. We're safe now. And I can feel myself relax into it. So, one thing that I teach is it's not the first reaction that you have. The first reaction may be one of fear, one of wanting to shut down, one of subconscious, right? It's your subconscious mind just like being like, alert, alert, this is not safe. What matters is what we do after. And so, yes, there can still be a nervous system reaction and you can then relax into it. Okay, this is safe for me. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to survive this. And so many opportunities have opened up since our 100 episode run. We've had 2 manifestor events with, close to 100 women at those events, which have been incredible. I've had many speaking opportunities, getting ready for more this fall with being a speaker at High Vibe, which is, such an honor. I'm so excited about that. And Heartwired, being back on stage for that event, being in the iconic magazine, which was such a again, an expansive experience. Also being published for the first time in the My Manifested Life book, being one of the co-authors in there, sharing more of my personal stories, some more vulnerable stories, being on many other people's podcasts. And that's been a huge learning curve. And, the thing that was really interesting from like moving through something like that, when you've got like certain beliefs, right? What I also learned from it was, and this is why I always work with coaches. I also surround myself with people who are very self-aware and that can call me on my bullshit. And I was having this conversation with my dear friend, Lisa Garber, who's just, been, she's just such a big part of my life. She's been a guest on the podcast twice, and she will definitely be back because she is a wealth of knowledge. But until Lisa called me on it, because I was talking about this fear about being seen, and she's like, all right, Renee, I think we're done with that. I think that might have been the story before, but I think that's an old story that for some reason you keep clinging on to. And it just made me realize in that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. And also how sometimes what was something that was holding me back, it was legit. Then healing takes place, you move through it, but then for some reason, the story of being afraid to be seen starts becoming safe. And that became my safe thing. Like, oh, I can't do that. No, because I'm afraid to be seen. And it's like, well, if I don't have that fear anymore, what does that mean? And I am just so grateful that she was able to call me on it, because I'm like, you are so right. That isn't my story anymore. It was. And now it isn't. And that was part of saying yes to so many different things, because that wasn't my story anymore. And so if you are listening right now and there are certain things that you're moving through, sometimes the answer is to make a choice, make a decision, and let that go. And now show up from the new story. The new story is that I'm open and I feel safe to be seen, that my words, my truth matters. And when I feel kind of that old story show up, because it can be a crutch, we're used to it, it's what we've regulated around. Now you see it, you witness it, and what is my new story? What is the new truth that I'm choosing to step into? All right, something that has been showing up now, like as we kind of shift into like where we're going, I've had to really be okay with not everyone being on board or understanding my vision. And this realization has been becoming clearer and clearer. What the work that I do is more than like it's not a business, even though technically it is. It feels like it's a calling, and it's something that I just feel very, I know that it's part of why I'm here, what I'm meant to do. And that can feel big. And that's why sometimes definitely have my moments. But I am committed to it and I'm going full out. And that means that there's a lot of people, mostly I'd say like friends, like more family too, that don't quite understand it. They don't understand, like, why are you doing all these things? And it's made me question myself at times. And that's good. Like I'm all for it. Question me, ask me those questions. But it's every time I come back to, right, is that opportunity to come back to the why and why I'm doing this. And also being okay with, I can't convince someone else of why I'm doing this. All I can do is stay connected to my own knowing. I'm so grateful that my husband is an entrepreneur and he gets it. He gets that there's a certain level of craziness that comes with doing what I'm doing right now. I've been almost thinking of it as being an athlete. Not almost thinking of it. I think that's what it is. It's like when you have a high level athlete, I was one. I competed at Worlds in gymnastics and both my kids were, and there's a certain level of crazy that comes with it. I'm not going to lie, in the sense of like, there's an extreme amount of showing up, of commitment, of doing things when sometimes you don't want to do things, showing up for it in a way that sometimes not everyone will understand. So I feel super grateful, and I know that part of why I can do it this way is because my husband's on board. Also, our kids are older, so it's not like it's just we're in a different chapter, and my kids are lovingly supporting it and cheering me on. And so it's been kind of fun, where I've been supporting everyone's dreams for so long, to now give myself permission to do the things that light me up, do the things that I want to do, to dream big, to go for things that may seem a little out there for some people, but to know that I get to also lead in that way. And that's been like, I've received so much feedback from people in my community where they'll be like, thank you for doing it because you're showing us what's possible. And I just want to tell you how much that means to me. And especially there's something about doing things a bit later in life too, where, like so many more women, like this is what we need, there's no timeline to this, right? If you've got something on your heart, it's on your heart for a reason, and take the leap, right? There's never going to be a confirmation of like, oh, 100% go for it or don't go for it. All it is this leap that you're taking. And if you are one of those people, I will be your biggest cheerleader. So make sure you tell me all about it. Part of this, though, has been, I've been noticing what it's meant for me to show up for this vision, this calling that I feel, means saying no to a lot of things. And that part of it, so when we say, healing, there's layers to it. And people pleasing, I've always been a people pleaser. That's part of my DNA. It's part of the Libra energy in me, the unhealed Libra energy in me. Because if you've listened to the one of my recent solo episodes, I talked about kind of some of the realizations that I've had around astrology. But yeah, like it's a part of who I am, the people pleasing, 100%. And I've come a long way there. But when we speak of layers, the more I'm showing up for this here, it means that I need to say no to so many other things. And that's been a little hard. It's been hard because I feel at times I'm disappointing people. I feel like I'm not able to show up always for my friends in the way in which I want to show up for them. And also disappointing people, saying no to, I want to support all of the incredible women that I know that are running events, that are running programs, will forever be a cheerleader when it comes to supporting other people that are on a mission, that are following their purpose. And yet I can't do it all. And so learning to say no and to set boundaries from a place of love, knowing that I will disappoint people. I'm still working on it, gotta say. But it is something that is showing up for sure, and something that I know is part of my next evolution, being even more selective with what I say yes to. Another thing that is calling me forward now as we shift towards like what's next is I'm ready to be more personal. And that has been an evolution. I love doing guest episodes. I love it. I love putting the light on someone. And truthfully, I'm at a point now where if someone gave me Mel Robbins' budget and they're like, go all out, I would be the happiest person like to do this full time. I absolutely love doing podcasts. I love it. I love shining the light on other people. I love asking questions. I love being able to really tune into the conversation and ask, and love it. The connection piece is so good. And I've been more personal in my solo episodes. I definitely am even more personal in my membership. This is where I'm like, can really go there. There may be times where I hold back a little bit here, and I'm okay with that. However, the personal piece is what I've realized is just the sharing more of my personal life. It's not sharing more of my personal life, sorry. It's more the stories and the experiences that I've had. Like who I am today is because of a series of experiences that I've had and things that have happened in my life and challenges that I've had to move through. And so leaning more into that, writing the chapter in my manifested life was huge for me in that respect, because I'm very comfortable teaching. I do believe it's one of my superpowers is making more complicated spiritual thoughts, philosophies into a more digestible way of receiving it. Making spirituality practical is one of my strengths. And yet it's also been safer for me to stay in teaching mode. And so what this means is I was writing the chapter in the book, I honestly thought it would be around teaching around manifestation and what I've learned about it. And then I quickly realized, ooh, this is not what it's about. This is what was my personal story around, like, how did I manifest this life? So that asked me to go into different parts, and it was actually quite difficult because there were so many points. And the chapter ultimately is about connecting those dots and looking back, speaking to myself at that time from this perspective. But that was a new experience for me. It was a new experience for me. And so I'm feeling very called to share more of that. I am writing my own book. I am digging more into those stories and sharing more of them. So you can expect more of that. The other thing really calling me more is owning my authority. And that has been another evolution. And I know that it's happened through these 100 episodes of showing up, yes, as a leader. But what I've learned about myself is I also have held back a little bit because what the authority piece means to me is that, the visibility was like, I'm willing to be seen. But now this authority is like, I'm really willing to put a stake in the ground as to what I believe in. And but there was a part of me coming back to the people pleasing that I don't want to offend people, or I kind of keep it a little bit looser. And I've kept it looser. There is part of that is intention, because from a spiritual perspective, I always say one of the most important things you can do is stay open. The moment you close yourself off is when you disconnect. So it's important to stay open and to stay fluid with the beliefs that you have. And I've got many years experience, training, lived life. I know a lot of things, and yet I've held back on really stepping into owning that knowledge, owning the experiences that have brought me to where I am. So that piece has been a really interesting awareness that I've had recently. So I'm really being called towards there. And that means being willing to not be liked by everyone. It means willing to say something that is my truth, but may not be someone else's truth. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I feel like now I've been more playing with it and stepping in and out. And this is a moment where I'm like fully crossing the threshold on the other side. Another big piece. I gotta say, this has been one of the greatest blessings. And it has been realizing that part of the purpose is, so the big vision, bringing spirituality to the masses, sharing spirituality with the masses. But what's even more important is the community. And this is the piece that I've always known. I've always known that has been a part of why I'm here, is to bring women together. I always say there's magic that unfolds when you are in a community. The only reason why I'm here where I am today is because I have been surrounded by the most incredible women who have been holding space for me during the hard times, during the great times. Women that I can show up and, when they ask me how I'm doing, I know that they're not just saying, hey, how you doing? They actually want to know how I'm doing. And that has, and also to be with women in spaces where I can feel safe to be myself, that I don't have to be perfect, that I don't have to have the mask on. They know my shortfalls. They know when, I need maybe a pick-me-up because I'm feeling right now the weight of what I'm doing, and they are there to lift me up. And hopefully I do that for them as well. I feel that I do. so much of this work now, this evolution, spiritually wired membership, the masterminds, the certification that is coming, it is about community. It's about creating spaces for women to come together, to feel safe, to be themselves, to be seen, to be heard, to learn from each other, to see themselves in each other. I've realized that it's not about me. It is about the space that is being created. I had the absolute pleasure and honor to be a guest teacher inside the Outspoken Master NLP certification that my dear friend Marsha Van Weinsberg leads, and that I was a part of. So another thing, right? I've been continuing to invest in myself, in my work, in my knowledge. The big part of the NLP program for me was really learning about the subconscious programming. But I was able to come back as a guest teacher to teach this new group that are learning how to hold spaces, whether it's like the energetics of a session, whether it's like what an actual session looks like. How do you create experiences and connection? So that ultimately is part of why I'm doing the work. And it is my greatest, honestly, honor and blessing is to just see the most beautiful souls joining, saying yes, being a part, creating and leaning. And then, these surreal moments of seeing a post where two people are together and they're getting together for coffee, or they're going to a class together, or they're doing this, doing that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they met inside the work that I'm doing. And it just warms my heart in so many different ways, because that is ultimately what it is all about. We need community. We're not here as human beings to be doing this work by ourselves, especially the spiritual path, which is so much of it is unlearning all the things. So it can feel sometimes like your foundation is being rocked, because you're like, wait a second, this is how I've been operating my whole life, and I never question it. Now I'm starting to question why I'm operating this way, why I have these beliefs, why this is so hard. And you can feel that foundation being a little shaken up. Surrounding yourself with community solidifies that foundation. This is where it all comes back for you. So if you are curious, if you're not part of the membership yet, highly recommend you come join us and just to be a part, because this is where we take this here and now we integrate it. Now we go deeper. Now we have the conversations together so that we awaken within you. It's not about me telling you. It's not about someone else telling you. I mean, we have incredible guest teachers within the membership as well, but it's about you learning for yourself. Like, where am I? What is my spiritual belief? But it comes from you, not from someone else telling you. So that's been such a big part. Yeah. I'd say, what have these 100 episodes taught me? It is to stop waiting. Just do it. I was going to launch years ago. I was all ready. I stopped. And then I kind of felt stuck and, oh, why? Like, we certainly don't need another podcast or this. And I'm so happy I just went for it. So if there's something that you're waiting on the perfect conditions, and I work with so many people, and this is the number one thing. Oh, I'm going to do it when. I'm going to do it when. I'm just waiting for this. We're waiting for everything to line up. And I can tell you that nothing will ever be lined up for you. There's always going to be something else. There's always going to be life happening. Does it mean that you adjust? Yes, you're going to have to adjust when life happens. But there is no better time than right now to step into it, to own it. I would say that the more you use your voice, right? The more I use my voice, the clearer it becomes. So if you're someone you're feeling stuck in your throat chakra, you're not used to sharing, speaking up, speaking your truth, go for it. The more you use it, the more that you will start to own it. And that is part of everything, whether it's confidence that you're working towards, whether it is, being seen, or success, abundance, you want to call in more money, more health, whatever it is, being willing to do it in the discomfort, that is what will bring you to where you want to be. I'd say consistency it changes you. When people ask me, how do you stay so consistent? And there's one clear answer. It's because of you. I made a commitment to you as a listener that I was going to show up every week, and that is what I'm doing. I made a commitment to the women inside my membership that I was going to show up weekly to my one-on-one clients, right? When I make a commitment to other people, I show up for them. So consistency, that's the thing. We're always looking for the big breakthroughs, but honestly, the breakthroughs happen in the small moments of showing up consistently, because you learn from the doing, right? You always learn from the doing. And I just want to also acknowledge the incredible guests that have shown up, and you, the listeners. It has been such an honor, and I cannot wait to see what the next 100 episodes bring us to. Thank you for listening, for being a part of this spiritually wired community through this podcast. Once again, please, if you can follow, subscribe, rate, review, it would mean the world to me. And as always, I want to remind you that you are spiritually wired for expansion, for belief, for love, for abundance. And I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly life lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes, or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.